Just testing the levels, man. Sounds a little bit more like you're talking on 1920s radio.
Nope.
Who is she, and where did she come from?
Her name is Malan.
Testing the levels, man.
Name Malan.
Oh, yes. Girls, gays, and theys, please welcome Nay Malan.
Alright, good morning. Welcome to Old and Jaded. My name is Nay Malan, and this is, can you believe it, the second episode of it. So if you haven't tuned in and if you are newly listening to me, welcome. I mean, last week, which was my debut, which was the pilot for Old and Jaded, I think did extremely well. Can you believe it? Hold for applause. 44 and counting views, listen. I don't know if I should be doing a meet and greet yet, but listen, we're optimistic. We are looking forward, and I want to just say thank you for those views, and thank you for those that did subscribe to the channel and are anticipating this episode today. So I'm back again on a Wednesday today. This is the 8th of Jan, in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2023. Now today, I mean, last week I told you it was quite bright and sunny and it was giving me the energy I needed, whereas today is a little bit more overcast, and as I'm looking through the window, not that great for those of us who are lovers of the sun as I am. Now, when it comes to sunlight, it really does give me the energy that I do need, to get up, to get things going, to get things up and running. But when it's overcast, or especially when it's raining, you don't really want to do anything, especially if you have to get up, get into your car, drive through traffic. If you're in the city, if you're not in the city, if you're in the countryside, as the Americans like to call it, or if you're in the small little towns or townships, I think you guys should actually be quite grateful that you don't have to deal with the traffic, because the traffic, can I tell you, is not the greatest thing to experience. I can deal with traffic when I know there's supposed to be traffic, when it's when there's peak hour, which is generally in Johannesburg from around 6 o'clock in the morning to around 9 o'clock. And then again, I think around 3:30, sometimes from 3, and especially on the Friday when people are running away from when they're running away from work. Then it's around 3 to around 6 p.m. So those are the two slots. But you know what I hate is when you're planning your day, you're planning your route, that, let's say, from your house to your destination, it's supposed to take you, let's say, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at a push, but because there's not supposed to be traffic. But then you get those people, you get accidents unexpectedly, which I'm not mad at accidents. Accidents happen. But what I am mad at is what we like to call here in Johannesburg rubbernecking. If you guys don't know what rubbernecking is, now rubbernecking is a phenomenon which is where you're not involved in the accident. The accident is not in your lane. It is not obstructing your way to wherever you're supposed to be going. But what you do is you slow down, you as the other vehicles around me, as the frustrated driver, and you start and spectate at what is going on the other side of the freeway, on the other side of the highway, or what do they call it in America? The overpass, or I don't know what they call it, but anyway, it's the high speed area. But anyway, so those are frustrations that I can't deal with, when people are purposefully first of all, they're putting their lives at risk by standing at an accident scene, but also they are purposefully delaying other people by looking and spectating at an accident, okay? So let's just keep it going, There's things like Twitter, there's things like the news where you can catch up if you wanted to understand what happened on the N1 at 1:45 in the afternoon. You wanted to understand, wanted to know, you were curious, you were just inquisitive. But for most part, people are just nosy. Let's be honest, people are just nosy and they can't seem to keep their nose out of other people's business. And then you inconvenience other people, which is not great. It is not great. So, yeah, I think that is I didn't mean to vent right now. I don't know how we got here, but I'm just saying, if you don't stay in a city, be grateful for small blessings like these, where you don't have to anticipate traffic, where you don't have to get frustrated and stress yourself out because you're going to be late for your 10 o'clock meeting because you left the house at 9:45 and you stay half an hour from work. I don't know how people think that they can leave 15 minutes after they were supposed to be at the meeting. But the great thing is nowadays is we don't actually have to rush anywhere. The great thing now that people have incorporated, and which is amazing, is hybrid working. So what that means is, or what some companies' policies are, is that you work from home for part of your week, and then the rest of the time, however you may schedule it, you work from the office. So you don't have to rush anywhere. You don't have to put your life at risk. You can actually wake up at maybe 10 to 5 to the meeting and don't even switch your camera on, because why are we switching cameras on in 2023? All you need is my voice. You need to understand what I'm trying to say. And so that's the great thing that came out of COVID. I know that 2020 was not the best for us for a number of reasons. But the great things that were accelerated and the catalysts that were put in place was things like working from home. I mean, we were always capable of doing it. We had the capabilities. People had access to internet. People had access to Wi-Fi at their homes. But for some or other reasons, we were still holding on to the very archaic ways of working. We still wanted to meet face to face. We still wanted to sit in a boardroom, look at each other, painstakingly repeating certain things. Whereas now, in today's day and age, you go into Microsoft Teams, you go into Zoom, you go into Google Meets, whichever platform you're using, and you are actually able to just tune in there and from the comfort of your home sometimes, or from your home office, or whatever you're doing, and that is how we're going about things. So there's no need to rush. There's no need for all of this traffic. I mean, we think about back to 2020, if we just want to do a little bit of a retrospective view on it. I don't know if you guys remember when level 5 lockdown was in place and you went out for the first time, how quiet the roads were. It was unbelievable to see that things like that could exist. If you looked at the footage from everywhere, from CNN, from BBC, from different news networks across the world, how empty the highways and the freeways and the motorways were, and something that has never been seen for a very, very long time. And that was peaceful. I mean, I think a lot of the introverts loved that part of the lockdown. I know we are still hush-hush in a pandemic, but during that time, I do believe a lot of people were going through withdrawals, social withdrawals, where they weren't able to go outside. But for people like me, who was an introvert, I loved it. I mean, I, for the most part, am a homebody. As I told you in the last episode, I don't really need the interaction of other people to energize me. So for people like us who are a little bit more homebodies, who don't really venture outside, and when we do venture outside, we go outside for one night or for one day, and then we recharge for about a month to 2 months again before we have another interaction. So yeah, those are great things. I mean, guys, so let's just today take a chill pill. Who still says that in 2023? I don't know. But, these are the things that happen. And speaking of, resting and recharging your social battery and your social data bundle. When it comes down to friends that you haven't seen in a while, I mean, for myself, I have a very small circle of friends. I don't even know if it's a circle anymore. I think it's just one little dot on a dotted line. One of my friends, I last saw him when he came to my 30th birthday, and that was in 2021. And I think it has been over a year since I last spoke to him or saw him. So I do apologize for that. You know, I always apologize. I'm the worst at returning text. I have improved, but still when it comes to phone calls, please don't call me, you know, text me. I mean, I've grown accustomed to voice notes and things like that, where, I mean, at the beginning it was very weird to receive voice notes. I didn't know how to even send voice notes, because it's not like a phone call where you hear the interaction of on the other person on the other line. You know, it's just you basically recording yourself and sending it off to someone. So it was very awkward, but I've come a long way. So I can do the text messages, I can do the emails, I can do the voice notes now. If need be, I can definitely do calls, but I'm not really keen on calls. So, rather that. But yeah, if you haven't seen your friends in a while, I think there's a lot of this kind of dialogue or conversation going around where best friends especially are deemed best friends because we don't see each other that much or as often as we would like. But when we do see each other, it's as if that hiatus or that break between when we saw each other last and now wasn't even there. So, I mean, don't be too hard on yourselves, and friends, don't be too hard on your friends as well. I mean, that is your chosen family, and you know why you are their best friends and why you are there in the first place. So, for now, I feel a lot more comfortable today. It's going very well. I mean, I'm very excited to be doing this, and it is great to actually be putting out some creative things again in the longest time. And I mean, I just have to keep going. It's just that one thing of showing up, doing it, pressing play, especially for you that are trying to actually get fit out there. So if you're trying to get fit, you know, all you have to do is show up, press play. If you're working from home like I do, I don't do the gyms really. The gyms are not really for me. But if you are going to the gym, just, you know, get in your car, start that engine and go. Because if you think about it too long, you are not going to do it. You're going to find a whole bunch of excuses not to do it. And then you skip a day, then you skip a week, then you skip a month. And the next thing you know, at you 5 years down the line, you're like, oh my gosh, what if I did it back then? You know, it's the what ifs, could have, should have, would have kind of conversations. And we don't want to have those conversations. So if you take anything away from today, it's that all you have to do is press play on that workout video, or all you have to do is start your car, I think it's Mel Robbins who says that you can do anything for 5 minutes, and thereafter you will most probably continue to do so. So that is my motivational thing for the day. I know the podcast is called Old and Jaded, so for the most part of it we are going to complain. So this is a platform for you. I mean, come through and vent, as they call it. I love how they say venting. You know, it sounds a little bit more diplomatic than saying complaining or gossiping, especially. So let's get this thing done. Let's get this thing going, and let's win 2023 for ourselves. Set those goals, put those dates down, and let's manifest everything that we want in our current reality. Let's forget about what happened in the past. Let's move on. Let's move forward, and let's see what we are capable of, because I'm definitely doing that. I'm very excited to see what I'm capable of. This is one of the avenues that I'm venturing in, and I am just throwing the line, you know, I'm just dipping my fishing line. Not that I know how to fish. I think I fished once when we went to a dam, but I've never really done any of those kinds of things. But I am casting the line, as they say, and manifesting my first radio gig. So if any of you are of my future and current listeners and viewers, I want to be on radio soon. So just follow me. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me wherever. We're going to take a short break now. I just need to grab some water because my throat is becoming very dry, man. So just hang on for a moment.
Nay, Malan was enjoying talking so much that he got cotton mouth. That's introverts for you. Not to worry, he will be back momentarily.
Alright, so here we are again. We are lubricated, we are hydrated, we are ready to read the girls. I didn't even get to the topic of today, which actually was, where does she come from? So that's really, it's back to me again as name Malan. You guys already understand where I come from, where my name comes from, but I just wanted to delve into a little bit more on how the journey went and where I really do come from. So for those of you who tuned in last week, know that I come from a not a very small town, but a small town in the beautiful Western Cape along the Garden Route. I love to tell the Gautengers and the Joburgers where I come from. And that is, let's take Cape Town as your reference point, then you're traveling down the N2 towards Mossel Bay. Okay, so that's the best way to explain it, all right? So you're traveling down towards Mossel Bay, towards George, and wherever you may be going to vacation, and you will pass through or pass by on the N2 a turn off to a little town called Riversdale, or Riversdal as they call it. It's an Afrikaans town, so we don't really say Riversdale, we say Riversdale, we say Riversdal there, so they speak Afrikaans. The majority of the town speaks Afrikaans. They are capable of speaking English, but preferably choose not to, okay? So if you do go there, do brush up on your Afrikaans if you are an Afrikaans speaker. So I never really knew how big the town was in terms of population, so I did a quick Google search, and the last seems like census was done in 2011, so I don't know why they have waited another 12 years not to do it. So potentially the population has grown, but from that Google search, it states that there are 16,100 people that stay in Riversdale. So that's quite a number of people for such a small town. It's a beautiful town. It's green. It has beautiful scenery. It has it has the clean, fresh air. It has the farmlands around it. There's the lack of pollution, which is something that you do find in the cities quite a bit. So if you want to have a full view of a starry night, then you definitely want to venture to Riversdale, because at night you're able to see quite a number of the stars, the full galaxy, the Milky Way, all of those things, which you can't really see in Joburg or Cape Town because there's a lot of interfering artificial light in the cities. So that is one of the things that you can look forward to when moving there. So I was born there. I was born in the local Riversdale Hospital, and that was in 1991. So we're going on 32 years this year. I was born there. We moved around quite a bit. My parents moved between different kinds of places. So I was the new kid quite a bit. I think when I was 3 years old, we left Riversdale, and we actually, not 3 years old, I think it was, a couple of years later, maybe 5 years, I think it was 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. My dad went and worked in Cape Town, actual Cape Town, Cape Town city. And eventually my mom and I, we also ventured and moved to Cape Town. and that was at the age of 5 or 6 and I was in creche there. I started my first grade there. So I was the new kid for quite a lot of times in my life. We did venture around quite a few times during this time. So that's where I actually learned to speak English. I was Afrikaans born and raised, and then at that young age is when I actually learned how to speak English. So from a young age, I was very bilingual, and something about me, when it comes to languages, I have this sort of perfectionist complex where I need to learn the vocabulary as well as the pronunciation and accent of that language very well. I love how I'm speaking as if I speak so many languages, but I do have the, what do you call it? I'm a lover of language. What do we call it? Linguophile, you know? So I love to learn languages. I tried to, when I was in my first year of varsity, I picked up Spanish, so I can still habla. Ik kan nog hablar, you know? But at a young age, I did learn my first 2 languages. But what I am quite a little bit ashamed of is the fact that I actually didn't, I can't say I didn't, but I haven't really put the effort into learning any other South African languages. Because as you know, we have 11 official languages. I only know 2 of the official languages. I know certain phrases and certain words in Zulu and in Sepedi, in Tswana, in Xhosa. Hey, let me get that click right. I will not be crucified on this channel, man. Sorry, I can't get the click right as well as I would like to. But yeah, let's move back because I am digressing a little bit. So we stayed there for quite a number of years, and then eventually we moved to Kimberley, or to another small town in the Northern Cape, which is called Limeacres. So I did half of my first grade schooling in my grade 1 schooling in Cape Town, and then we moved to the Northern Cape, to Limeacres, where I completed the second half of my grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 in this small little town. And that's where I actually started gaining great affinity for reading. You know, something I lost as I grew up. I started watching a lot more television, but when I was younger, I used to live basically in the library. I used to love reading, and I used to love spelling. It was a great thing for me a great challenge for me. So I participated in spelling bees and all of those kinds of things, which I've lost as well. So I think doing these episodes and these podcasts are reminding me of some of the things that my younger self used to love. So I need to get back into reading again, but I won't actually knock it, because those early stages of development and me reading so much actually did help me develop quite a wide vocabulary. It also helped me to fall in love with words and language and accents and all those kinds of things. So you might hear on this podcast that I do dip into certain kinds of accents sometimes. I love to switch it up as well. So these are the certain things that I have an affinity for. So moving from Limeacres, which was in the Northern Cape, we moved back for a short period of time. Well, not a short period of time, I think it was 4 or 5 years. We moved back to my hometown in Riversdale again, where I completed my primary school and my first year of high school. Now, if you are a child in a small town, and especially a town that was like mine, you might, and I think I've heard a lot of these stories coming from queer people, coming from the LGBT community of which I am a part of, you'll find that you do undergo a lot of bullying. And that was my experience of being in that small town, is that you were bullied to a certain, I know that we've taken a very sharp turn now and moved into this part of it, but I just want to address it in that if you have undergone bullying and come through that, and you're now an adult, and then maybe a young adult, an adolescent, you are one of the strongest people that will ever exist in this world, because you were strong enough as a child to go through that fire and to go through those experiences where on a daily basis you were humiliated, you were ridiculed, you were actually diminished as a person. And for just being who you are, I mean, we can't help the fact that we're gay, you know, we can't help the fact that we are different. We can't help the fact that our hair doesn't look as straight as yours does. Our skin is too dark for you because we are worshippers of whiteness and we're worshippers of light skin. We cannot help that. We were born this way, and that is why we are here. But I do want to basically hone in on that part of it. The fact that you did survive that and you are here today listening to me, and the fact that you did go through that bullying and that internal strife where you were fighting with yourself and you didn't understand why you are the way you are. You are one of the strongest people to ever exist, and no one can stop you. Because you have overcome that, and you also made the decision to be like, listen, this is who I am. There's nothing that's going to change it. No amount of prayer, no amount of me wishing it away, no amount of me acting and putting up a facade is going to change that. So the only way for me to actually go about this is to own it and to use it as a weapon and drive my way through this world. So that is just a little part of it. So my experience of that when I was a younger person, when I was a child in that town, wasn't one of the best. I mean, the best part of that really was when I was participating in music. I mean, I picked up my first instrument, which one of my teachers gave me, which, as we all know, we start with a little recorder moment. That's where we start and how we learn music. Although I always wanted to learn piano, but that wasn't really there for me at the time. So the best part of me, or my escape at the time, was to jump into and to learn music, which was great. It was something that my parents always encouraged me to do. It was something that they loved about me, and they cultivated in that. But there were certain things, and especially coming from the schooling background, is that children really are the most cruel and the most wicked creatures, shall I say, I'm not going to say for lack of a better word, because that is what they are. They are cruel. They don't have any remorse. They'll say it as it is, and that's just how it's going to be. So there was a lot of breakdown of my self-esteem when it came to my creative part of who I was. And especially because I love to sing. I was in the choir for quite a long time, but that was in only my primary schooling years. And eventually when I finally got into grade 7, there was a little bit of an underlying sort of ridicule towards boys who sang, and especially boys who were in the choir. And for some reason, I listened to these children, these people who were like, why are you in the choir? Because that's for girls. Why are you in the choir? That's not something men do, whatever. And then eventually that took hold of my psyche, and I left it for a very long time. Even to this day, I think those thoughts and those intrusive, as we call it, saboteur, I don't actually know, saboteur tendencies are still there. So the internal saboteurs are still among us. So if you have those internal thoughts and inner demons that you are fighting with, I would like to encourage you to actually just listen to the smallest, softest voice that is encouraging you to follow your heart and to follow your passion. Because at the end of the day, and about 10 years, 20 years down the line, when you look back at that decision that you made to actually not listen to the haters, to not listen to the people who are trying to break you down, you would have listened to a part of yourself that was asking you to be brave enough to actually move on and follow the passion that has been instilled in you, the talent that has been given to you, which I actually regret. We live with a lot of regrets, which we shouldn't. But when I say I live with regret, I also use that regret as a stepping stone, as a tool to learn from. And even though I'm 31 going on 32 now, I still believe that I am able to take what I learned from my younger self and his experiences and to use that and to create a better future for both of us right now. Okay. So yeah, I think I delved a little bit too deep. This is the thing about these unscripted sessions, man, is that you don't know where you're going to end up, in what rabbit hole you're going to follow Alice into. But I was actually talking about being a small town boy who moved to the city, So I finished my grade 8 in 2005, and then my mom and I and my brother moved to the big city, which was very scary, if you understand. I mean, we lived in Cape Town. Cape Town is nothing compared to Johannesburg. Johannesburg is massive. I still, to this day, after 15 years, have not seen the most parts of it. So it was a big thing. I remember when I was sitting in my final years, when there was a question that asked, or the principal came and asked us if there's anyone who's transferring to different schools because they need paperwork and things to be given. So I was the one who said, I raised my hand, I remember, and I said I'm moving to Johannesburg, and everyone was in shock. Their eyes were big, especially the principal and the teachers. They were like, why are you guys going to Johannesburg? It's so dangerous. You're going to get kidnapped. You're going to get robbed. You're going to get all these different kinds of things done to you. But I mean, I am thankful for my parents for being sort of the pioneers in their family that they were and that they are, for taking that step. And there was one thing that I won't forget that my aunt told me and encouraged me to do, is that to move out of that small town and to experience a bigger city, because that does broaden your horizons, It broadens your horizons in terms of what you think you're capable of. It shows you different kinds of opportunities that you would not have seen by staying in a small town, So I do believe that I'm grateful for moving to Johannesburg, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to be engrossed and engulfed in different cultures and in different walks of life. So that was a great thing. But I will tell you that the trip from Riversdale to Johannesburg seemed like an eternity, because I've never been here. I never even visited Johannesburg. So if you don't know, if you're traveling, if you don't have a car, if you don't have the ability, as we weren't as affluent as we wanted to be. So we took the bus. We went with the Intercape, which was a very comfortable, cozy bus as well. If you guys have ever traveled with the Intercape, it's a great bus service, especially the one they call the Sleepliner. So if you're traveling from Riversdale, there aren't any buses that go to the town. There aren't any airports close enough. So if you are let's say you're going to take a flight, you're going to have to travel about 2 hours to George, then get to that airport and fly from there to Johannesburg. But if you're traveling with a bus, you're going to go from Riversdale, you're going to have to make your way. So you're either going to you have to phone a friend, maybe. You're going to have to pay them 500 to 800 Rand in petrol, even though it's an 80-kilometer drive, which I think they should only be charging you 150 to 200 Rands. FYI. So let's not exploit our friends and family, please. So you have to travel to Mossel Bay. Then from Mossel Bay, you'll take the bus, which leaves around the afternoon, 3 or 4 o'clock. Then you'll travel through the night. And then you'll arrive in Johannesburg after 16 to 18 grueling hours of driving in Johannesburg at Park Station. So for us who have never been there, it seemed like we were driving for days on end until we actually arrived in Johannesburg. But I must say, when I did get here, it took a while. I mean, I was still, when we first well, I don't want to say it's a culture shock, but it definitely is a culture shock because for the most part, Riversdale, Cape Town, the Western Cape predominantly has a population of white people and colored people. Whereas when you move to Johannesburg, there's the predominantly African cultures here, a mixture of Zulu, Sepedi, Tswana, and Sotho speakers as well, who have come from different parts of South Africa and come to Johannesburg for better opportunities, just like we did. We moved from the Western Cape for better opportunities because, if not anything, Johannesburg really is the beacon in South Africa for growth and opportunity in this country, you know. So it was a culture shock when I went to grade 9 in 2006. I mean, people were making fun of the fact that I was still doing a side path. I mean, that was like a very, very much country boy thing. You know, it was something that if you lived on the farm or you lived in small towns, especially where I came from, that was the thing. You were clean shaven and you had a side path, and you wore dull clothing that was the thing. So I quickly outgrew that side path because, you know, we wanted to fit in. But nowadays it's better to stand out than really it is to fit in. But I didn't know any better. Back in the day, I was just a closeted boy who wanted to fit in and make friends. So that was my story. And I went through high school. I made a couple of friends. I wasn't really the outgoing type. Still, not much has changed to this day. I still don't go out as much as I'd like to. In high school, I was just trying to finish. I was just trying to get through it. I wasn't trying to fail, or anything. Anybody trying to fail, anybody trying to repeat. So I was just going through it. I was in grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. So I did great. I got great marks and distinctions by the end of my high schooling career. But I never went out. You know, I sometimes, on occasion, probably went out with friends, but that was the minority of the time. Most of the time I was at home, I was watching TV, I was probably reading or, you know, binge watching a series, or, you know, at the time I was still renting movies, renting DVDs and Blu-ray and what have you. So we weren't really into the streaming in the, you know, early 2000s. That's really a new thing. So it was still rentals, renting DVDs, DVD players. I mean, I was born with, when I grew up, we still had VHS videotapes, cassette players. My dad bought me when I was, I think when I was 7 or 8 years old. I got a Walkman back in the day, a cassette Walkman, and I think it was Savage Garden and those kinds of people on there. So yeah, man. So life is interesting, and if there's one thing that you take away from your experience in this world, is that everything and anything that you do is not wasted. Any experience, any job that you have worked, anything that you have done will always come back in a way that will be useful to you and will be a tool for you to be able to use in future. It will be a skill that you might have learned while you were a cashier, while you were waiting tables. It might be something that you learned from a colleague that you worked with years ago. It might be something that you learned unexpectedly from a child. I mean, we always think because we've grown up, we can't learn from younger people or from children. And there's one thing that I will never forget, I think, until I'm probably old and gray one day. So there was this mother, I don't know why I'm saying it like that. There was this lady that I knew and still know today, and she had a daughter. Now, I was privy to this conversation. So what she did was, she told her mother, I think she was 5 years old at the time, so she told her mother that she feels very happy. And she was smiling, she was whatever she was doing. And her mother was like, okay, that's great, but why are you happy? And then all she said was, and I thought this was the most profound thing that I've ever heard in my life from anyone. I mean, especially coming from a young mind that is only 5 years old. She said, it's because I want to be happy. And that just opened so many doors for me, you know. It opened my mind. It was almost like an epiphany to be like, okay, you don't have to have anything besides the want and the in the moment need to be happy, you know. It doesn't have to come from anything external. It doesn't have to come from any sort of destination or level of success that you've reached. The only thing that you have to know is that you want to be happy, and you will be. I know it's easier said than done sometimes. Sometimes we fight battles and we don't want to really get out of bed, but at the end of the day, it's about living in the moment, and it's also about enjoying the journey instead of waiting for the destination before you can be happy. And I just want you to take that little bit of a message from a 5-year-old girl who understood that, in essence, the essence of you being happy or being anything is that you just have to want it. You just have to want and desire it. Also, you can't, what I've recently learned, and I used to have this problem of actually letting my mood spoil my whole day, you know. You don't have to let your those couple of minutes of an argument, of those couple of minutes of feeling sad, doesn't have to affect your whole day. You can take those couple of moments, feel it, own it, and go through the emotions, but you can also decide to change your mood and to become peaceful and happy once again. So I think we are going to delve into a lot more of what I learned in future episodes when I came to Johannesburg. I mean, just to give you a glimpse, I was at varsity, which is a whole different kettle of fish once again, you know. You're exposed to so many different people from different religions and walks of life and belief systems and creative outlets and expressions. And there's a couple of different things that I learned there, but I don't want to delve into that now. I just wanted you to understand where I came from. I came from this small town, and I sort of grew into a person that was able to have the opportunity to see the world. Well, not see the world. I haven't seen the world. That's one thing I still need to do, which is to travel, but I haven't traveled outside of South Africa yet. But I have traveled within South Africa, and I've been able to see different cultures and hear different languages and eat different foods and, you know, meet different people. And I love meeting people because every experience of a person and of different kinds of people will always be different and will always enhance your experience of this life. So that is that for Old and Jaded today. I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on. I think I was doing a lot of rambling today, but I was very happy. I had a very open, free spirit, and I hope that you will give this a listen. Episode 2 of Where Did She Come From? So thank you for joining me on Old and Jaded. This is Malan, and I'm signing off. See you again next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Malan. See you soon on Old and Jaded.